KP.
KPC.
News.
Information. Culture. KPCC.
California sensibility.
Hey, I'm Amy Choi.
And I'm Rebecca Lehrer, and we are the Mashup Americans.
Well, it's spring break time.
Woo-hoo!
That's right. And Rebecca, I know you love a beach. So have you ever been to Puerto Rico?
I do love a beach, and no, it's one of my deepest regrets of over a decade on the East Coast is that I never got to Puerto Rico. And when you live in New York, it just feels so close.
You mean like in the Bronx?
Yeah, well, Puerto Rico is basically off the 6 train. I don't know if you guys knew that. I just take the subway there. No, but seriously, it felt like there's such a strong tie and there's such a strong Puerto Rican influence in New York, which as somebody from LA felt so different than the Latin culture I grew up in. And as a side note, please watch our favorite Puerto Rican, Jennifer Lopez, doing carpool karaoke because it's a dream.
It is a dream, and I have to say, her attachment to her hoop earrings, it really it gets me because I feel like it comes from the soul.
Oh, it's just so deep in there. I really respected
It's
that.
right in there. Rican culture is its whole own entity. And so our guest this week, Laia Garcia, knows all about it. She's the deputy editor of Lenny Letter. She was born and raised in Puerto Rico and moved to the U.S. for college, now lives in New York. And we had just had a great conversation about what it means to be Puerto Rican in the U.S., which is confusing, and we just talk about language, family, Seinfeld, and of course, avocados and sofrito.
She does love avocados and Seinfeld, as do we, so we had a really nice starting place. So let's talk Lenny Letter. If you guys haven't been reading it, it's a newsletter started by Lena Dunham and Jenny Connor. It's feminist, it's smart, it's extremely mashy.
Just like Laia. On to the show. Wait, so people have called you Lisa?
Yeah, one time it happened, but it's like I'll never forget it.
No, never.
Because I was like,
never.
You're not trying. Another thing that happens to me with the name is if I give somebody like my ID or my passport, people will see Laia. They don't know what that is, and my middle name is Christine, and they'll just be like, Christine. And it's like, you don't get to just skip over a name because you've never seen it before. Like, that's not how that works. And it happens all the time. Like,
do they assume that like it's transposed the way that sometimes your last name goes first?
It's super weird. And I'm always like, you don't get to you can't be like, I don't know what this is, so I'm gonna pretend it's not there.
Let's do the Lenny.
Yep.
Can we like just say what your like role and title is at Lenny, and then a quick description of what Lenny Letter is?
Okay. So I work at Lenny. I'm the deputy editor there. And Lenny is a newsletter started by Lena Dunham and Jenny Connor. And what we do is it's a little magazine that arrives in your email twice a day. On Tuesdays, you get an email with 5 stories that cover your sort of general topics like politics, work, relationships. And then on Friday, you get an interview with a woman, 2 times a man so far, who we think you should get to know more about.
And she's being, I think, a little modest. You can talk about how crazy gangbusters Lenny is.
I mean, it's just we have a very small staff, which I think people don't realize, and I don't ever have time to really step back and be like, damn, this is cool. Like, I know it's cool, but you can't just be like, yeah, it's like a pretty cool thing that we do all the time. It's like not a big deal.
Yeah, you're working your face off. Yeah. So you wrote a really smart piece in the New York Times about cultural appropriation, which is a kind of that you need to give credit where credit is due. And essentially that it's not okay to just like mimic something, but that mixing is okay.
Yeah. Basically, and it's also cultural appropriation is also weird because it's not something that I knew about or experienced until I moved to the States. And then it's weird because then you're like, oh my God, like we are so racist. But the way that I feel about it is you should obviously never dress up in a costume as somebody's culture. Like that's not cool. But I think if you admire an aspect of a different culture than yours and you're respectfully, representing it and giving credit, like I don't think that should be a bad thing. because in my head I'm always, like you move to America and it's like it's the melting pot. Well, you can't have a melting pot if you're separating things. But at the same time, I have other friends, like Asian friends, who are like, well, when I went to school and I brought my tofu, like people made fun of me and now everybody's eating tofu. It's weird because it's food, but I understand that too. And I don't have, like, I feel like that's also valid, but I feel like at the same time, it's like, it's progress that we're all being cool with everybody's food.
Yeah,
But,
totally agree. It's the tone and the perspective you take on it in a lot of ways. But yeah, I mean, also our lives are mashed up, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, frankly, I probably grew up around more Koreans than Amy did.
That's 100% true.
Right? Doesn't make me more Korean, but it makes me zero Korean. Let's just be really clear about that.
It's like how I like to pretend that I'm Jewish because I grew up in the North Shore of Chicago.
Yeah.
And Rebecca's like, well,
but there's it becomes part. There's a porousness to a lot of this, and it makes me love and appreciate it, and it feels like a part of my LA cultural heritage, right?
Yeah, I think that counts too. But at the same time, like, I went on this weird Twitter, it wasn't a Twitter rant, it was kind of a Twitter rant this week because people keep talking about avocados like they're a white people thing.
Oh.
And it really pisses me off.
Yeah.
Avocados are delicious.
The best, the most important thing.
An important part of any meal. And people are like, get out of here with your, like, avocado, white girl. And it's like, excuse me.
Yeah.
Like, I get that avocado toast is a new thing that people are into. It's actually like a new thing for me. Like, we don't eat avocado on toast. That's not a thing Puerto Ricans do. But like, don't take away my vegetable or my fruit. What is it?
it's a fruit. It's a fruit.
But it's the most important food group,
God, don't
I
tell me
think.
it's the best.
It's like lime. I'm like, everything should just have avocado and lime.
Like, somebody posted a meme on Facebook the other day that was like a picture of somebody in tears, and the caption was like, when you find out there's avocado after you've eaten. And I was like, that's so real.
There's like a second avocado stomach.
Yeah.
I don't think
Oh, it's
that
true.
would
I mean, I
really
would still
impede
eat
my-
it.
Yeah.
But when you mix it together,
Right, that's
better
the best.
results.
I
Better
know.
results.
Rice, beans, and avocado with lime and salt.
That was the welcome meal I had for Rebecca when she got to New York this week.
Yeah, it's the best food in America
Really
or
is.
anywhere in the world.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we totally, like, it's like, don't go wear a kimono to go to a Japanese art show.
I'll kill you.
But on the other hand, it doesn't mean you can't appreciate so much about the culture and figure out ways to integrate it or learn more or what have you.
Like, don't mock it. Don't
Yeah.
make it a costume. Just like be chill about it.
It's
I'm not gonna. I just want to clarify. I'm not saying that other cultures do not eat avocado.
yeah. But it's
But
a
when
primary
people
food
are
group.
like, "White girl, go back to your latte," I'm like, "Don't do that to my avocado."
You're like, you know what?
Chill.
That white girl's getting on board, and that's good.
Yeah, and I
because
love it.
She's eating a healthy fat that tastes delicious.
The little
that
salt
has
and
its own
olive oil.
outfit on.
It does have its own outfit on.
I know.
So supposedly the seed of an avocado, you can use it to make dye, and B, it's actually super nutritious. Like,
How do you
there's ways
eat
of,
it?
I think you have to like
you make it
soften
into, like,
and then
dust?
grind it. Yeah.
That's too hard for me.
That sounds really hippie. Yeah.
that's like 500 steps too far for me.
Well, so give us a little bit of your family story. We learned, you were just telling us earlier before we started the podcast that you came to Philadelphia from Puerto Rico for college, but can you go back a little bit?
Sure. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. I spent all my life there. All of my family is Puerto Rican. I have a Dominican grandfather, but other than that, everybody's just Puerto Rican. So I moved to the States for the first time when I went to college in Philadelphia, and it was really weird. The first class that I took, like that semester, was called I think it was called Global Transitions.
Mm-hmm.
And on the first day, everybody like sat around in a circle, and the teacher was like, "Everybody go around and say what you are."
That is such a hard and semi-invasive question.
But it was weird because I had never been exposed to this. So everybody's going around being like, I'm a quarter German, like a quarter Irish, and 2% this. And I was just like, what is this? What's going on? Like, and I was just like, I'm Puerto Rican.
But Puerto Ricans are a mix of things too, right?
Yeah, but you don't
Yeah.
break it. We don't break it down.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like, I know that I'm African, Spanish, and whatever little bit of Indian is left over, but like
Yeah.
native,
So-
Taino. But
Yeah.
you know,
Do you identify at all as an American?
no, but yes.
Totally. We get it.
And what about being a Puerto Rican from Puerto Rico, from the island, and then living in New York, and there's this New Yorican culture and community? How does that kind of play out for you? Do you feel connected to it?
I do now. What I found now is that the longer that I've been here and the more that I realize that, like, I probably won't go back to Puerto Rico to live there. The more that I realize that, like, I will become a New Yorican, because there will be a point in my life, like in 2 years, I will have lived in Puerto Rico and the States the same amount of time. So and already I feel like that changes like my identity, the way that other people will see me. Because before it would be like, you know, people be like, oh, you don't have an accent. And I'd be like, thank you, I guess.
Right. Fuck you also.
Yeah. But it'd be like, oh, but I've only been here a year. I've only been here 2 years. So I was like, I'm like Puerto Rican. I don't have anything else.
Yeah.
But the longer I'm here, I'm like, oh shit, like now there's other things that come into play. So what I found, like, I think at first, and I think Puerto Ricans and New Yorkers, we definitely see each other, like, because like when I first moved to New York, like I remember I ran into this like kid on the train, and they were talking about last names or something like that, and I started laughing, and the dude was like, what are you laughing about? And I was like, oh, nothing, like my last name's Garcia. It was something like very simple. And he was like, what? And he was like, oh, I'm Puerto Rican too, blah blah blah. And then he was like, so like, is it true that it doesn't snow in Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
And I was just like,
Yeah.
like, this is super weird, because you're my people, presumably, but it's so different.
Yeah.
But the longer I've lived here, the more I'm just like, no, like, you're my people. I mean, I live in a Park Slope now. And when I moved there, it was slightly before before Gowanus became the Whole Food Gowanus, like, hip place. And it was very much Puerto Rican people that lived there. And that's, like, I like that. I felt at home, because I was like, this is, if I'm going to be here alone by myself, like, I want to be surrounded by my people.
That's so interesting, that curiosity of the New Yorican community in Puerto Rico. And do you get that vice versa?
No, not really.
Right. So like the
Like,
Puerto
not when I
Ricans
go
at
back.
home aren't like, what's America like?
No,
Right.
that never happens. And nobody ever thinks I'm white in Puerto Rico either,
Right.
which is a thing, because people here are like, you don't count.
You don't
Right.
count as brown.
Yeah, which happens all the time.
It's also like for somebody to say to you, you're not that. It's like, well, also, even if you were born in the States, and even if your parents were born in the States, it doesn't make you less Puerto Rican. It may make you less Puerto Rican, like, from that place, or an
Yeah.
understanding of the culture as it stands on the island, but it doesn't make you less of who you are.
Yeah, because I think about that, because I'm like, well, I'm sure at some point I will have children, and my children will be raised here, but I will raise them Puerto Rican, because,
What does it mean to raise your children Puerto Rican?
I mean, they'll learn Spanish.
Are they going to eat mofongo?
They're going to eat all of the food. Mofongo, arroz con beef, you know, all of the avocados.
Con beef.
Con beef.
That moving from my mom's Salvadoran moving, I'm from LA, so it's just what I know. And when I moved here in 2000 into New York, I was like,
What are these people
what?
speaking?
Does anyone have teeth? Like, it sounded like people were
Really?
talking with
Because
no teeth.
I heard somebody speaking Spanish on the train, and I feel like they were, Central or Southern
Yeah.
America, but they're very much like some sort of like Inca, like they're
Oh,
very
yeah.
native. And for the life of me, I was like, at first I was like, maybe they're not speaking Spanish.
Maybe they're
at all.
actually speaking Quechua.
But then I picked up like a couple words, and I was like, holy shit, this accent, it blew my mind, because then I realized that they were totally speaking Spanish.
Yeah. You
And
just-
I could not understand it.
That's how I felt when I moved here, and I was like, "What are Puerto Ricans saying?" and this is why advertisers and people who are creating entertainment for the Latino market don't really know what to do, because it's not monolithic.
Yeah.
And there's just so many varieties of culture.
But still, like, I was listening to your to the podcast with Aminatu before, and you asked her where she like saw herself more reflected or whatever. And to me, the most perfect Puerto Rican moment on TV is actually on Seinfeld. It is the guy that lives like down the hall who is like dating his landlord, sort of.
Not Newman.
I can't remember.
No. I don't know his name. He appears frequently throughout like the whole show, but the one specific time is Jerry's upstairs neighbor dies and he wants to give the apartment to Elaine. That guy is Puerto Rican, and on the show he's Puerto Rican, and when he speaks Spanish like as a Puerto Rican, and it's the best thing. Every time I hear it, I am so happy. And I always,
like, I'll take that apartment.
yeah, like I just because it was so like it felt very real to me.
So, Jerry, you know anybody who needs an apartment?
Are you kidding? You know my friend Elaine?
Oh, yeah, I like her. She always says hello to me.
It's not promised to anyone? Because she'd take it in a second.
Well, Manny wanted it for his brother, but he got deported.
¿Cómo que deporte? Eso fue un pequeño misunderstanding con el Departamento de Inmigración.
What's the difference? It's true.
So it's okay? I could just tell her she could have it?
Sure. She's getting a bargain, too. It's only $400 a month.
$400. Tú estás loco. Eso vale mucho más. Eso está regalado.
Okay.
Óyeme, el dueño te va a matar.
Okay.
In direct opposite to that, on 30 Rock, when they had Salma Hayek playing a Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
And all Spanish she spoke with a Mexican accent,
Yeah.
which is fine because she's Mexican.
Yeah.
But even with her Mexican slang,
Right, you couldn't deal.
This is
Couldn't
like
deal.
watching
God.
Narcos.
Yeah, my husband's Colombian, half Mexican. He's like, he really wants to be in it, but he's like, come on.
just like
It's a really good story. It's
It is.
actually, it almost at the point is, he's a good actor, the Brazilian guy, but I was trying to explain to someone, they're like, come on, don't exaggerate. I'm like, it's like if a French person played George Bush, but nobody acknowledged that he was French. And he was
Yeah.
like, oh, it's very terrible. Let's go to war. Like, you're like, that's not a thing. It can't.
and like I love 30 Rock and I love Salma Hayek, but those episodes I just want to kill the laptop.
Yes.
Because I'm, streaming them now.
Oh,
Yeah, of
obviously.
course.
Oh my god, the worst.
But and it's like we do. We try not. It's good to be reflected. It's like you're like she's one of our people too. It's nice, but when you see it done really authentically, especially on a show like Seinfeld,
And he was just like an extra.
yeah. But they somebody was made sure to make it feel New Yorky, which is pretty fantastic.
It would have been funny if he's obviously in New York, if he had like a New Yorican accent and you were like, is that quite right?
I mean, I think like he does.
Right.
But I think they do a good. They have another Hispanic dude. It's like I watch a lot of Seinfeld. Anyways, it's the busboy that they get accidentally fired, and his big line is "La puerta está abierta," and he just says it like so.
Puerto Rican.
¿Quita? Si ese gato se me ha perdido, tú vas a partir la cara. Yo no necesito dos pendejos joderme la vida.
His cat's gone.
La puerta está abierta. ¡La puerta está abierta!
God, I just love it
That
so much.
LR thing.
When you hear that accent, which
I
I
know.
realized too, Lin-Manuel Miranda was he did a speech in
Washington.
Washington.
Yes.
Oh,
And every
God.
time he broke into his Spanish accent in Puerto Rico, like his Puerto Rican accent, like that shit was legit.
My parents were both born on the island. My dad came here, just like Hamilton, to get his education when he was 18 years old. He came to New York. And I got sent there every summer to stay with my grandparents. It's a little town called Vega Alta, Puerto Rico. My grandfather was the manager of the town bank, just like George Bailey in It's a Wonderful Life. My grandmother ran a travel agency called Viajes Miranda, Miranda Travel. My aunt owned the school supply next door, and I was, if you've ever seen In the Heights, I was Sunny. I sold slushies in the summertime to the kids because school starts in August in Puerto Rico.
It's a sloppy Spanish that we speak. It's very like
It's island.
You
It's
know,
island.
it's like very
Yeah.
relaxed. And he was not
Laia's
even
doing a dancing thing right
I'm
now.
doing
She's
a wavy. And he was like not even trying to be like, well, you know, I'm like in Washington, so I'm gonna do like proper Spanish. It was very much like he just like let it all out, and it was so satisfying.
How does that make you feel? Like when you see, I mean, he is arguably, at least in New York, the most famous Puerto Rican out there.
It's amazing, and I realized I think I'm glad that you guys asked me here because I've been thinking a lot about all of these things recently as I think about like my 10-year anniversary in New York, my 15th anniversary in the States, blah blah. But I was watching the Grammys, and when Hamilton won and somebody behind him pulled out the Puerto Rican flag, I started crying immediately.
Of course, I just got goosebumps.
Yeah, me
I've
too.
like I've never seen Hamilton. Like I don't have any sort of
Lin-Manuel, get her tickets.
like I don't have a serious, you know, I was just like, oh my God. I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Because it really is so rare that I see like the people who are really like my people.
I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey, yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. I'ma get a scholarship to King's College. I probably shouldn't brag, but dag, I'm amazed and astonished. The problem is I got a lot of brains, but no polish. I gotta holler just to be heard with every word. I drop knowledge. I'm a diamond in the rough. A shining piece of coal, trying to reach my goal. My power of speech, unimpeachable. Only 19, but my mind is older. These New York City streets get cold. I shoulder every burden, every disadvantage I've learned to manage.
As I'm here longer, like I am more open to experience these things. Like the first time, my first semester when I was in Philadelphia, like at school, one time I was eating at the like at the cafeteria or whatever, and these girls came up to me. They were like, "Are you Puerto Rican?" And I was like, "How did you know?" And I was like, yeah. And we like, this was like, you know, the first or 2 weeks where you're making friends with everybody. And I was like, yeah, and we like talked about plátano, like this and that. It was great. And then they were like, oh my God, we're going to dance on the parade float. Do you want to come dance? And I was like, no, no. And they never talked to me after that, which like fair. But it was like, at the time I was like, A, again, parades, no. B, I'm not like the kind of person that dances on floats. And I don't say that's like I'm not that kind of girl. I'm just like, no.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time I was like, I am so Puerto Rican. Like I've been here for 2 weeks. Like I don't really feel the need right now to be like, I'm Puerto Rican, celebrate me, because I'm like, what? There's nothing else that I could be.
Connected to that is when people are what you're, you know, the longer you're here, the more you're getting into your Puerto Rican pride, right?
Yeah, which is why now I understand everybody. Like I feel like I understand Nuyorican and Nuyorican culture like so much more, because before I'm like, why is everybody wearing a damn Puerto Rican flag all the time? Like, what the hell? But now I understand it. And also, real talk, as soon as I was able to get a tattoo, the first tattoo I got was a Puerto Rican flag.
Yeah.
And like a poem. Which was also great because my mom was super anti-tattoo. So I called her and I'm like, hi, guess what? And she's like, you got a tattoo. So she knew, and she was like, what did you get? And I was like, well, it's a Puerto Rican flag and it's a poem by Julia de Burgos, which is like the #1 poet in Puerto Rico. And she was like, oh, fine.
Yeah.
Because she got it, but she is so mad. And every time she looked at my arm, she was like, oh, I hate it. But I know that she loved it and I knew that she understood, but she hates tattoos so much.
Okay, so we're going to do this speed round.
This is exciting.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's a fun part.
Okay.
So how do you mash up?
I was thinking about this. I'm Puerto Rican. I guess am I Puerto Rican American, which is a crazy thing.
Right.
Somebody described me as that recently, and I was like, I'm just Puerto Rican. Like Puerto Rican American sounds redundant, but there is a difference. And then I do have my quarter Dominican, which I will not deny.
Okay.
Don't deny that.
What does it mean?
You know, I don't know. I feel very, I don't know, but
They're different countries.
I thank you. By the way, just
me.
to like talk about our ignorance, it isn't that recently, but it's not like that long ago when I learned that Haiti and the DR are the same island. in the last 15 years. I mean, but still, it was a little too far along in my life for it to be acceptable. My mind was completely blown.
I've had grown people who've gone to college ask me if, what language do they speak in Korea?
I've had people, I mean, the first semester that I spent in Philadelphia in college, how did you get here? On a plane. Do you have Burger Kings or any fast food? Which I love because all of my American friends who have been to Puerto Rico, we have more fast foods than anywhere else I've been in the States.
Yeah.
We give directions make a right at the Burger King, a left at the Baskin. It's nuts. And I'm always like, you don't even know. I've been to more fast food restaurants than you.
But also, isn't that funny that that's what you're bragging about? You're
At the same time, I know, it's just what? I'm normal.
All right. Well, speaking of Burger King, what is your comfort food?
Surprisingly, for a while, it was ropa vieja, which is technically not a Puerto Rican dish. I want to say it's Cuban properly. But when I lived in Philadelphia, I lived next to this Latin restaurant, and they had really good ropa vieja. So that was my go-to. And now it's carne guisada, so it's beef stew, because now I live around. But basically any sort of meaty, stewy dish with rice and beans, sweet plantains, I'm home.
I'd like to later talk about how my mother almost rejected me because I hate plátanos.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, where are you from?
My mom's from El Salvador.
Okay.
But I don't like sweet plátanos. I like what the
Tostones,
but that's just fried.
How big are plantains in El Salvador?
They're pretty big.
No, culturally.
Oh, I'm like they're I'm making a
average plantain
size.
size.
I'm making it's important.
Okay.
So wait, also Puerto Ricans pronounce all the letters of the word tostones. Yes?
I think so.
Did
I just
because
sometimes
because my Cuban friends are like, oh, totone.
I think we eat more of the last syllable is the one we breathe more. But I don't know. When I'm around my Puerto Rican friends, my accent sort of
it blossoms.
Yeah, it's really weird. I'm dating somebody new, so now he really realizes as soon as you see her, it's you drop a switch. But it's weird because I don't think I'm ever making an effort to speak a better English around people. But for some reason, when I'm around them, I'm just yeah, we're gonna go over here, and it just comes out.
I know, gosh. Let's bring her out right now. I wish it wasn't so early in the morning as we record this.
If I was a little drunk, oh baby, it comes out. I'm just what? And then I'm just I don't know what I'm talking about. It's just a very, I guess.
I know, but then you become a New Yorican.
And you're
comes out. Yeah, okay.
I
we all
say
like
you
that. Okay. I love her. What's always in your fridge?
Sofrito.
Duh.
Recaito, which are different.
What's your favorite Puerto Rican slang?
Oh, there's so many good ones. Do you know what's actually really good? The Wikipedia page for Puerto Rican slang.
I didn't know there was such a thing.
A wonder. It's true and real, and very accurate. Okay, let's see. I say brutal all the time.
Yeah.
Which is when something's cool.
Yeah.
And then I feel I've started saying it in English because you could still say brutal and people it kind of translates.
Yeah, context, yeah.
My favorite saying is ¿Quién le dio vela en este entierro? Which I love translating the sayings into English because it's really funny. It's who gave you a candle at this wake? When people are meddling when they don't need to meddle. And one that I taught a friend of mine that she really liked was ese huevo quiere sal, that egg wants some salt. When
someone's boring?
No, when somebody's trying to hit on you or trying to get something from you, you're what's up? Ese huevo quiere sal.
Because in El Salvador we say someone's a papa sin sal. And that's when they're
boring.
Yeah, you're it's super papa sin sal. And now we say it just in my family, but in a totally American accent. So it'd be oh, what a papa sin sal. And then everybody says it now because it's so good. Yeah.
What dating advice did you get from your mom?
I've got no dating advice really. But as soon as I turned 25, my grandmother started asking for grandchildren.
25. That's a lot of years of pressure.
Every time we talk on the phone. The funny thing was, it was on my 25th birthday, which is how I know that it was literally because it was on my 25th birthday. She called. And she's like, Laia, don't tell me, bebe, where's my baby? And I'm like, Grandma, I'm still here. And she's like, no, like, where's my baby? And I was like, she like didn't even know my boyfriend at the time. Like, you just want me to? And then I realized that at this point, because all this time I was like, my grandma's going to be so proud that I'm like waiting to get married. I'm going to, I'm going to do it the right way, quote unquote. And then I realized that at this point, she does not care.
No, she doesn't.
She just wants a grandchild, a great-grandchild. No, a grandchild.
No, great-grandchild.
Great-grandchild.
Yeah, a great-grandchild. And every time we talk on the phone, she asks me for it.
Does she threaten you with her own death? Because mine did that.
Oh, no, because I know she will not die until she meets this baby.
I will stay alive.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Well, on that note, thank you so much, Laia. This was amazing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so I know we've been talking a lot about grandmas, but Laia's mama, she is the real.
I mean, she is never gonna give up on wanting that baby.
No.
And I have grandmas like that, so I know. Laia, let us know if you want to borrow one of Amy's.
You can take them both, no problem. Maybe for a long weekend? This is actually starting to sound like an excellent plan.
The Mashup Americans is creating solutions every day.
Every day.
Oh, and let's not forget, today in Algomas, it's springtime, which for us means spring condoing. On our website, mashupamericans.com, we have an article about rituals for moving to a new home or starting fresh in your current one. Boil milk on your stove. Sweep out that bad juju.
Done. Doing it. And so check out that story and more at mashupamericans.com. And while you're there, sign up for a newsletter. It will arrive every Saturday morning, make you laugh, make you think, and generally feel great about how you start your weekend.
The Mashup Americans are me, Rebecca Lehrer.
And me, Amy Choi. Our show is produced by American Public Media and Southern California Public Radio, KPCC.
We're also supported in part by an award from the National Endowment for the Arts on the web at arts.gov. Besos.
Later.